So I'm showing you all how I crumb coat my cakes. Um, this is my buttercream, 1.5 cup of shortening to 4.5 to 5 cups, ice and sugar, and 3 to 4 tablespoons milk. Um, this recipe is for a 6-inch 3-layer cake, but it can also do an 8-inch 2-layer simple design cake. So we're first going to add a little bit of buttercream to the board. This acts as a glue, so it's going to help stick your cake to the board. I chilled my cake for about half hour, and that is so the buttercream could easily adhere to the cake. So this is an 8-inch. It's vanilla. I use the recipe from the Nap Skills cookbook. So I filled some buttercream in a piping bag, and here's where we add our icing in our layer. So you add your icing, and then you're gonna take your spatula and smoothen at the top. If you're going to add filling, you add the icing, and you see how I make a dome on the around. You add the icing first, and then you make a dome, so the filling would stay within that. But I'm not doing any filling today, just a layer of buttercream. So I smoothen it with an offset spatula. Offset spatula is the one with this little angle. It's easier when you're icing a cake, so your hand wouldn't touch the buttercream as much. So you see here, this is like the dam that I'm making. So if you're adding filling, you do that on the edges. And then I smoothen, and then I will add my second cake. When applying your buttercream, try to get the layer as level as possible. To know it's level, you see like you hardly get the lines. That's when you know it's a level layer of buttercream. Make sure each cake is aligned properly, so when you're applying your buttercream, you wouldn't have a slant cake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 ways in which you could add your buttercream. One is where you just apply the icing straight to the cake, and the other is where you pipe it on. I prefer piping it on because it's less messy. Some people prefer icing and pasting. So you just take a clump of buttercream with your spatula, and you start to smooth on. Now this is more messy, and it's easier with the chilled cake. I don't always work with chilled cake, so that's why I prefer the piping method. And for me, this method takes longer. So you're going to add your icing, and you just keep swiping, swiping. When you need more, you dip again. I don't like this method because sometimes I tend to double dip. I don't want crumbs back into my container frosting. And as usual, you level off the top as well. Some people level off the top at first and then take the icing and send it downwards to cover the rest of the cake. A little bit of frosting goes a long way. You do not want a thick crumb coat. So for the second method of applying my buttercream, Here's where I take the piping bag, I put it over a cup, and I add the ice into the bag, and I swoosh it on. For me, this is a cleaner method. It takes less time, it's more effective. And also, I get sharper edges when I crumb coat my cake this way. So when applying my buttercream, I add to the bottom first. So I have frosting at the corner. I add to the middle and I add to the top edge. And then I fill in any other space in between. So now I take my spatula and I just press into the buttercream until the frosting combines with itself. You want your crumb coat layer to be as thin as possible. It's always better to have the taller turntables and sometimes sitting at eye level at the cake so you can see properly and you can level your eyesight. So once I take the spatula and I smoothen the cake, you see how much extras I remain with. I add it to the top while I fill in the empty spaces. You're basically pressing into the icing and let it join with each other. Once I'm done with the spatula, I'm going to come with the cake smoothener now. And listen, when you are smoothing your cake, try to make one full rotation. So you start a little bit before you cross your arms a bit. It's a bit tricky to do, but you cross your arms a bit and then you swoop around. You keep the hand that is holding the smoother in one place. You hold your smoother at least a 45-degree angle and you spin your next hand. You see, like this, if you keep doing this and stopping and this and stopping, you are going to get lines in your cake and you're not going to get a smooth finish. Do not do this when you're icing your cake. You see there's a line there, you're going to get lines. You can see at the top where the buttercream comes in, you're going to take your spatula at the end and pull in. So you'd get that sharp edge. When lifting the cake smoother off the cake, lift your hands easily. If it's too much of a 90-degree angle, it's going to not be as smooth. If it's too turned in, it's going to just swoop up all the icing of the cake. You don't want that. You want it to give a smoothing effect. So this is how you crumb coat your cake. And you just take the extras and fill in these spots. Next, I'm going to show you how to do your